Today on this edition of Life After Sight Loss TV, we're going to talk about the iPhone 8 Plus. I'll give you an overview, my review, and answer the question, why did I go with it instead of the iPhone 10? What's up, VIPs? Derek here, back with another edition of Life After Sight Loss TV, where it's all about helping you discover life after sight loss. On this channel, we do product reviews, life advice, encouragement, how-tos, and so much more. So if you are new here and that all sounds good to you, consider hitting that subscribe button so that you don't miss another single video. Back in September, Apple announced a slew of new devices, and we've talked about one of those devices on the channel already, the Apple Watch Series 3. But they also announced some new iPhones, the iPhone 10 and the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus. So today, I've got the iPhone 8 Plus here with me. Now, it is the space gray version, it is the 256 gig version, and it's got a Batman wallpaper on it because Batman is cool. So, we're going to talk about this phone, what it is, how I've enjoyed it, and I'm going to give you the answer to the question you're wondering, why did I get it and not the iPhone 10? Now, before we begin, the iPhones have been out for, at the time of this, at least a couple of months at this point. So you've probably seen every sort of tech review, the specs, the this, the that, the size, the blah, blah, blah. Look, if you want to know all that stuff, go watch tons of videos, and I'm sure there's great ones out there. I'm not going to go over all the single specs here today. I'm just going to give you some interesting differences in the 8 when it comes to visual impairment and some general things as well, and then answer that question about the iPhone 10. So let's jump into it. Here's some specific things about the iPhone 8 Plus, how it's different than the other phones, and what I like about it. First of all, the new iPhones, the 8, 8 Plus, and the 10 all have wireless charging. Finally, wireless charging in the iPhone. Now, I know what you're saying if you're an Android person. We've had wireless charging since like 1974. Look, I get it. And, you know, that whole thing, I don't even think the Android versus iPhone thing is even a thing anymore. You've picked one, you're going with it, you're in it. If you're watching this and you're an Android user, maybe you just love watching, my face talk about iPhones. But the point is, I think that whole, disparaging argument of iPhone and Android, let's just forget about it. Let's just talk about this phone. Now, what is wireless charging if you're unsure? Basically, you take a coaster, put it on the table, put your phone on it, and it'll charge. Or it's not really a coaster, but the point is it has a little pad. You can put it on there. Sometimes there's a stand, whatever, and it'll charge your phone. It's not any faster than the normal brick they give you in most cases, but you can charge it, without having to plug it in, and that's pretty convenient as well. The difference that makes on the phone is it now has a glass back. Now, I have a case on this phone, but it has a glass back, and there's kind of a nice design. However, now not only can you smash the front of your phone, but you can smash the back as well. So, hey, kudos to Apple for giving us another way to make money off of us. But wireless charging is a nice new feature, so that's definitely something to think about with the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus and the 10 as well. The next thing about the iPhone 8 Plus is the improved camera. Now, if you've got a 7 or 7 Plus, it's probably not a huge jump in camera, but a 6S or 6S Plus and down, you're going to get a better camera. The iPhone 8 Plus specifically has got dual cameras, which means it's got a 12 megapixel normal wide-angle lens and a 12 megapixel 2x telephoto lens. What does that really mean? Well, basically it means you can zoom in with optical zoom instead of digital zoom, and you can get a portrait picture which will have your face nice and sharp and the background blurry. Is that great? Sure. Is it worth paying a bunch more money if you already have a 7 Plus? Probably not. But it is a nice new feature, and the camera is really, really nice. And on the 8 and 8 Plus, you can take 4K video at 60 frames a second. But if you don't have a 4K TV or know people that do, it's really kind of useless. But is it a good camera? Absolutely. iPhones have had really good cameras for a long time, but it's improved in the iPhone 8 Plus. The next thing is the internals. You've got an improved processor. It's the A11 Bionic chip. Look, they threw fancy words in here. The bottom line is, it's really fast. It's fast, it's got 3 gigs of RAM, it can do a lot of nice things. I've had no lag, no problem. I was using a 6S Plus, and while it wasn't slow, you could tell it was, especially with iOS 11 and the bugs it had, it was, a bit buggy. But this, super fast, lots of cool stuff. You can edit video, you can do whatever. You're not going to have a problem with it. New AI stuff and all. It's faster. That's pretty much what they should say. This phone is faster. That's really all it really is. All that fancy 2 times, 70 times, all this stuff. It's faster. It's a really good processor. You're not going to have any trouble with this phone. And finally, one other thing I want to mention about the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus is, especially the 8 Plus, is this. It's got stereo speakers. Now, they're not really true stereo speakers per se, because you got one down here that's facing down, and then you've got one up where the part is that you would talk on the phone, the ear part. The ear device, the ear speaker. Some of you are screaming going, it's called this. Anyway, the part where you listen to a phone call. It's got a stereo speaker. The reason it's nice for visually impaired people especially is because voiceover will come out of that speaker. So instead of doing this to try to hear it, you can do this, and it looks much more normal. Plus, instead of having to swipe like this, you can hold it and then swipe like this. So that's actually a really nice feature, and it does get a lot louder. My wife has a 7, and I always commented how loud her phone was, and this 8 Plus gets really, really loud. And that I really like, especially being somebody who needs to take in all that audio. It's really good. So actually, that's one huge benefit to the iPhone 8 Plus, and you get with the 7 and 7 Plus as well, but it's that speaker up there, especially for voiceover and checking that out. All right, so that's just a brief review of the iPhone 8 Plus. Look, if you've got a 7 Plus, it's pretty much the same phone, minus, internals and the camera and stuff like that. If you've got a 6S Plus or down, you might consider upgrading, but if your phone's working fine, don't worry about it. I'm just giving you this in case you're thinking about it and you're like, I'm visually impaired. Is it that big a deal? No. One difference if you have a 6S Plus or down is the home button is different. The home button on the 6S Plus and down actually presses down. This is not. It's not going to press down. It does vibrate, it gives you that haptic feedback, which is kind of neat. But other than that, it's pretty much the same. Same buttons. No headphone jack, as everybody's pointed out. They're like, oh, there's no headphone jack. Of course there's no headphone jack. Like, they took it out on the 7. It's not coming back. It's dead. Like, it's gone. Get yourself some Bluetooth headphones and be done with it. So anyway, that's the thing with the iPhone 8 Plus. It's a great phone. I really, really like it. I've had no problems out of it. So if you're considering it, definitely go for it. Now, the real question is, why didn't I get the iPhone 10? Why, Derek? Why wouldn't you get the iPhone 10? It's the brand new fancy iPhone. You love iPhone. Why wouldn't you get the iPhone 10? Here is why I didn't get the iPhone 10. There's a few reasons, but the number one, the deal breaker for me was, are you ready? Drum roll, please. Ba-da-da-da-da-da. It doesn't have a big enough screen. Now, you might be saying, hold on, I thought the iPhone 10 had a 5.8 inch screen. The iPhone 8 Plus only has a 5.5 inch screen. Yes, but here's some things about that. First of all, you got that notch coming down at the top. You're losing some screen real estate. You've also got a little bar at the bottom showing you where to swipe up and swipe to the side and things like that. You're losing a little real estate there too. When the keyboard is up, you got a big blank spot at the bottom with a couple of buttons that they don't use very well. And if apps aren't optimized, it's shrinking the screen to the size of the 8 and the 7 and the 6 and so forth. I want a huge screen on my phone. This is a 5.5 inch screen. And it's screen, that's what I want. Especially when I'm watching video. Here's the big thing. The resolution on my phone, the dynamic range here, all that junk, I'm not talking about the picture itself. I'm talking about how it's made up. It's 16 by 9. 16 top, 9 to the side. That's how, YouTube videos are. The video you're watching right now is 16 by 9. Your HD TV, the layout is 16 by 9. The iPhone 10 is more like 19 by 9 because it's taller. And when you zoom in on a video to get it to fill up the whole screen, a couple things happen. One, it cuts off the video because of the resolution. And number two, you got that notch sticking into the video. Oh, I don't like that. Plus, the phone is as wide as more like a 7 or 8. And my 8 Plus is wider. I want a huge phone. I want this thing. I want it in my pocket. I want it barely fitting in there. I want to hold it. I want to grip it. I want a huge phone. And I'm fine with the chin and the forehead as long as I'm getting a bunch of screen and it will be the resolution I want. So it came down to screen size. Now maybe next year I've heard a rumor they'll have a 6.5 inch iPhone 10 and maybe that will be great. But for now, I went with the iPhone 8 Plus because of the screen size and the real estate I get with the resolution. Now, there's some other reasons that were considerations, not deal breakers like the screen size, but the first one was it's familiar versus sort of the new. The 8 Plus is very familiar. Since the 6, it's been like this. And you can argue that that's terrible, but that is what it is. I like familiar. I like it. I want to keep it, and I don't want to struggle with the new stuff. So this time I went with familiar. Probably this may be the last phone to ever be like this, so I went with it just to hold on to that familiar a little bit longer. Next on that list is the implementation of voiceover gestures. Now look, I will say this, kudos to Apple because they thought about voiceover, because a lot of the iPhone 10 has new swipe up gestures and swipe and swipe and swipe. Lots of swiping I noticed on this. But with voiceover, they've implemented now, normally on the iPhone 10 you swipe up from the home screen, but now with voiceover running you swipe up and wait for a feedback, haptic feedback, and that brings up the home screen, or you swipe a little farther, get another feedback, and that brings up the multitasking. Same thing with the control center. You swipe down, you get feedback, that sort of thing. Is it bad? No, but it was like, again, that familiar versus new. I applaud them for thinking about it. And if it has a bigger screen, I'll just get used to it. But that was another deal, issue, not deal breaker, but another deal for me that the gestures were, all kinds of new. Would I get used to it? Sure. Is it that big a deal? No. It's just something that I considered. And finally, as I mentioned, just the size of the phone. Again, I want a huge phone. I'm fine with a huge phone. My wife's 7 looks like a toy compared to my 8 Plus. I want a huge phone. Yes, I want my huge phone to have a huge screen. So yeah, I'd say get rid of the chin. Once they have a 6.5 inch, it might be great, but I want a huge phone. And so that was another big issue when I held the phone, because I was able to hold it and play with it for a while. When I held the phone, it was just, I don't know, I didn't like it. It was too small. I want a big phone. My preference, again, my preference, not yours, but that was my issue. So the iPhone 8 Plus, iPhone 10, iPhone 8. Look, if you're watching this all the way towards the end of this video and you are an Android user, thank you for sticking around. I have no idea why you made it this far, but hey, kudos to you. If you're an Android user thinking about going to an iPhone, it's not the 8 Plus you need to worry about. It is really the software, and that's a whole nother video. And if you're an iPhone user thinking about going to the 8, 8 Plus, or the 10, I hope this video has helped you make a decision about it. If you have any questions, comments, thoughts, leave them in the comments below. Please be kind if you're an Android user. But that's the thing. If you like iPhones, if you want to, get an iPhone 8 Plus, you should go for it. It's a great phone. It's given me no problems, and I'm really glad I made the switch from the 6S Plus. Hey, my question for you today is this. What do you think about all of this hullabaloo about the iPhone 8, 8 Plus, 10? I mean, does it really matter to you? Do you even use an iPhone? What's your thoughts on all of this? I'd love to hear about it, and I'm sure others would as well. So let me know in the comments below. Hey, if you liked today's video, if you found it helpful, make sure to give it a big thumbs up, share it with somebody that you know, and subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss another single video. And while you're subscribing, make sure to hit that bell icon so you get notifications when I release new videos each and every week. Thanks for watching this edition of Life After Sight Loss TV, and until next time, remember, sight loss isn't the end, it's just the beginning. My name's Derek Daniel from lifeaftersightloss.com, and I'll see you in the next one.